Today, I'm going to talk about Shell, an awesome shell of your application for .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms. I'm specifically going to break down what is it, why you should care about it, and why I love it so much. So tune in. Everyone, I'm James, and I'm back this time talking about Shell, a really important concept of both .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms. It's a shell. It's a shell of your application. But let's actually go back in time here and talk about where Shell came from and why I think you should use it in most of your applications, and maybe not all of them. Well, when Xamarin.Forms first started, the concept was simple. You had an app and you had a page. And that was kind of it. You could have different types of pages, like a simple content page, a tabbed page, or a flyout page. You can sort of rig them all together and sort of combine them up. Now, when you navigated, you had a navigation stack, and you would push pages onto the stack, or pop things modally, or push things modally, and you would pass objects around. But as applications got more complex, and so did the operating system, there needed to be a way of adding structure, sort of an opinionated way of structuring applications. And what the team did is they created Shell, an opinionated way of creating a shell structure of your app that enabled you to do all sorts of things, such as flyout, tabs on the bottom, tabs on the top, and also do URL-based navigation, and also respond to query sort of schemas to open your application. And this was really nice because if you wanted to navigate 10 pages deep, you could basically say, navigate to and go to this URL, and then your application would respond because Shell knew how to navigate based on the URL, just like a browser does, like the internet does. It's based on a URL of the thing instead of just creating new text. So really your application could be stateless in a way, which is really, really cool, which means if you're deep linking into your application, it's really beneficial. It also meant that fundamentally, if flyouts changed or iOS or Android or Windows created a new way of doing flyouts or tabs, the Xamarin.Forms and .NET MAUI Shell could adopt to that user interface and be really highly customizable. So let's take a look at what this looks like in our app. So I created a brand new .NET MAUI application, and as of today in preview 11 that I have here, when you create it, it just creates an app. So a standard app over here, we have our namespaces of .NET MAUI and our XAML namespaces here. And what we'll see is that in our app class, it just creates a main page equal to a main page. Now, this is standard. A .NET MAUI app and a Xamarin.Forms app both have an application class. The only difference is the program startup here. So here, for example, it creates this class, and sure enough, it's using that app class. Now, let's take a look at what a shell application would look like. And I'm going to be using specifically the My Coffee app that I use to build out an entire .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms 101 series on right here on this channel. So make sure you go find those videos. I'll put links to them up there, over there, and down in the show notes as well. So here is what my app shell looks like. It is a shell. So it's not a content page. It's not a tabbed page. It is a shell. And specifically here, we're using the Xamarin.Forms namespace, but if I change this to the .NET MAUI namespace and put it in a .NET MAUI project, it would be exactly the same because it's the same functionality there. Now, this shell is used a little bit differently. So for example, in our code behind, our main page is no longer main page, it is the app shell. And why is that important? Well, that's important because the app shell defines the structure and the theme of your entire application. It's quite beautiful. So the first thing I want to point out here is that it automatically is able to react to themes that are changing here. So for example, here's the flyout background color. I can enable a flyout, disable a flyout. I can do whatever I want, but I'm going to use basic dark and light theme here. In our resources, we style every single page of our application and our tabs and our flyout items. Here, what I'm doing is I'm adjusting the background color, foreground color, the title, the tab bar background, the selected and the deselected colors automatically using app theme bindings here. And I apply that to the tab bar and to the flyout item, which is quite cool. If we take a look at this application, we can see that it's actually relatively complex. It has two tabs here on my main layout. I have coffee and I have espresso. I have top tabs for light, medium, and dark roast over here, which is quite cool. I also have a flyout with all the different sections of my application, such as the My Coffee application that loads my coffee. I can click and add a new coffee and it'll pre-populate with some items here. I can also have it adjust to light and dark themes, all automatically, including those top and bottom tabs, which is really quite nice. If I go back over here to the light theme, look at how the application responds. If you're interested in how all of this is built, check out the 101 series over there. So let's take a look at it a little bit more in depth, why I love this thing. Well, one is everything is overridable. So for example, right here, every flyout item, I have a visual state manager describing what the selected and deselected states look like. So you can customize that look and feel right here inside of your application. Then the cool part here is that you get to define what your flyout items look like, all inside of your code. So for example, here, what I'm saying is that in this first flyout, use equipment and use a font image source for the icon. Then I'm going to have a tab of coffee here, which has 3 pieces of content in it. So here's the coffee with the coffee cup. And then I have 3 pages, light, medium, and dark. Down over here, I have espresso, which is just a tab with 1 item in it. And automatically, you can see that when it has multiple pages in a tab, it puts the tabs on top. So this tab has tabs inside of it, inside this flyout, which is really, really cool. So this flyout item has 2 tabs, and this one has 3 pages, and this one has 1. The other pages are very simple. They're just simple flyout items with a single shell piece of content, which is lazily loaded on demand when I click on it, which is really, really cool. So this means I can easily add all of my pages or dynamically add all my pages here. And I don't have to do any of the navigation at all. In fact, if I show you the code behind for the app shell, there's nothing there. The shell itself handles all of the navigation for the main flyouts and tabs automatically for me. Previously, if you were using the built-in tabbed pages or the flyout, you'd have to do all sorts of different work to handle a lot of this. It gets really, really complicated. It's just built in. There's even flyout headers as well and footers, and you can do a bunch of customization inside of the shell. I just have the sort of default here, but you can set that all up, which is really, really nice. Now, let me show you something else that I love about Shell, which is navigation. I talked about it earlier, specifically stateless applications. I think it's really where mobile applications need to go because you should be able to launch any page, inflate the content. Now, previously you would just pass data objects around, but really, that's really not the best way of creating a stateless application. It's very stateful because if someone opens your application later, it's going to kind of start at the beginning. If they close it out, you could reinflate and save the state of your application using Shell, which is really cool. So let's specifically look at how to navigate using this thing. So I showed a little bit earlier here, when I hit add, it actually opened this page up right here. If I go in and I click on a coffee, notice that that pushed it onto the stack with a back button. All right. So as I go through, there's 2 different ways of opening this. So let's first look at our coffee view model over here. And the first one is add. Now, this is really cool. What I'm doing is I'm creating a query-based route where I can pass different items into the page or the view model attached with it. So instead of pushing an entire new page, I've registered a route called add coffee page. And I do that right over here in my app shell. So here's the add coffee page, the name of add coffee page and the type of add coffee page. And it'll lazily load that for me automatically. But notice that I'm passing in a query parameter of name, which is really, really cool. So when I go to this add coffee page over here, what I'm going to do is have a query property that will automatically read that value for me and set the name property automatically. That's really, really cool. So I've set it to Mott's, so it automatically sets that name right there. I don't have to do anything. I have to set anything. I have to deserialize anything. It's all there for me automatically. But what about when I click on a coffee? That's a really cool one too. So over here, what I'm doing is I'm going to the My Coffee Details page and I'm passing it the coffee ID, which is really cool. All right. So if I open up that My Coffee Details page, I can also set the query parameter on the page itself. And note here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the identifier. I'm going to go to my database and get that coffee and set up the UI. So now let's go ahead and check that out. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and let's create coffee 2, for example. I'm going to hit save. Let's pull the refresh here. And now I have my coffee 2. I'm going to tap on it and I navigate into this page right there automatically and bind that information up. Now, here's what's really cool too is back navigation. If you look at this, it's sort of like a terminal or command prompt. I can say go to async ... and then I can go back here and it automatically will do that. Now, the difference here between modal and not modal is really, really cool because if I come in specifically to the add coffee page, you can control that with shell properties such as presentation mode. So not only can I navigate via these properties here, I can also set if it's modal, if it animates, if it doesn't animate automatically, which I think is really, really neat. Now, the other thing I'll say here is that I've been navigating just one time deep. What I could do is I could say, hey, not only go to my coffee page, but go and create another coffee page. And what this would do is it would work just like a URL where it would create a My Coffee page, create another My Coffee page, and then pass the attribute down to that second page. So again, deep linking deep into the application over and over and over again, which I think is really, really cool as I think about how I structure my application using Shell. Now, to me, I love that this gives my application structure. It gives me guidance. It gives me an easy way of theming from start to finish, all of my tabs, all of my flyout, everything from start to finish. I think what's really nice is that you can build very complex applications using very minimal code, all with Shell. That's it. Now, Shell does add a little bit of sort of structure and some different things of sort of thinking about how you organize your application. Like what happens if you have a login page? Do you start with the shell? Where do you put that? I have an entire video talking about login using Shell and without Shell too. But I think the benefits outweigh any additional complications that may come from a standard new page, navigating to page, because I think Shell just really simplifies things so much. Now, that's not to say that I always use Shell all the time. When I'm quickly hacking on code and I want to get stuff up and running, I go in, I create a new blank application, I just start creating pages. And sometimes I find, you know what? I don't have flyouts, I don't have tabs, I just have like a few pages in this application. And you know what? That's going to work great for me. And I do want to pass around those things because it's a very, simple or medium application. But as my application grows, Shell gives you that structure to grow, create advanced sort of UI and navigation and add that complexity by providing simplicity. And that's what I think is really cool about it. So there's Shell from start to finish, why it exists, why I think you should care about it, and why I love it. I've used it in a bunch of my applications like Island Tracker, which is an app for Animal Crossing, for my recent Snowpark application. I actually took the coffee application, cloned it, and built an application in just a few days with the beautiful sort of navigation that's all built in here. And if you want to see a really cool example of .NET MAUI and Shell together, take a look at the .NET podcast application. Let me pull that up right over here really quick. All you got to do is go to github.com/Microsoft/.NET/-podcast. And it's a full application, 100% built with .NET MAUI and Shell all in one. If you take a look at this, what I love about it, when you go into the mobile part of it here, you can see inside of the views, inside of the, pages, the mobile shell that's right here. And we have tab bars and tab pages, and there's icons and there's titles and shell content and all sorts of good things inside of here, including setting things if they're visible or not. So if you had an admin page or not admin page, you could hide or show different pages of your application. But it's a great example of how to build nice, complex applications, such as this podcast application, all using .NET MAUI, Shell, or if you're using Xamarin.Forms still, like I am in some of my projects, all still right there. I hope that you like this video. I like to break down this thing as far as why you should be using and what it is. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up. I'd love your feedback. Are you using Shell in your .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms applications? Let me know. What do you think of it? What should the team be prioritizing? I'm sure they love your feedback too. I also recommend, and I'll put some links down to some really awesome videos from Shane on the .NET MAUI team, who's done all sorts of crazy, real deep dives into Shell. I simply love it. I really like the real tweaking under the hood of it. So definitely check those out. I'll put those in the show notes below, some different things from Build and different Xamarin conferences of the past. Anyways, I hope that you liked this video. If you did, like I said, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Of course, I would love that. And of course, we have a membership here. Thanks to all of our members. I'm going to put all their names right here so they're forever in this video. I really, really appreciate it. Helps the channel go. I make all these videos in my spare time. It's so much fun to talk about these different topics. Hope to hear back from all of you in the comments below for a great discussion, and thanks for watching.